The stars looked different today. Admiral Do-hyun stared at the display screens in Luna Station's command center. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he did not care. 3 alien ships were moving toward Earth, and they were not trying to hide. "Sir, we are getting more signals from them," said Captain Jiwoo from her seat at the communications desk. She had been trying to talk to the aliens for 2 days. The messages they sent back were not friendly. Do-hyun walked over to look at her screen. The alien words had been translated by their computers. The message was simple and scary. "Primitive species of Sol 3, you will surrender all weapons and technology. Resistance will result in your elimination." "They think we are weak," Jiwoo said quietly. She had spent years studying space and dreaming of meeting other intelligent life. This was not how she had hoped it would happen. The alien fleet looked impressive on their screens. 3 large ships, each one bigger than anything Earth had ever built. At least that was what the aliens thought. Their ships had smooth curves and glowed with blue energy. They looked like they were built for war. Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like crystal. His race, the Nixari, had been exploring space for thousands of years. They had met hundreds of primitive species like the humans. This would be easy. "Begin the standard intimidation protocol," Vextar told his crew. "Show them our weapons. These creatures need to understand their place." The alien ships powered up their plasma cannons. Bright energy began to gather at the front of each ship. On Earth, every military base went to high alert. But Do-hyun was not as worried as his officers expected him to be. "Should we evacuate Luna Station, sir?" asked Lieutenant Sung Min from the tactical station. He was young and had never been in a real battle before. "No," Do-hyun said calmly. "Send the message to Earth. Tell them it is time for Protocol Omega." Jiwoo looked confused. "Protocol Omega? Sir, I have never heard of that." Do-hyun smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "You will learn about it soon, Captain. Send the message." Down on Earth, people watched the news with fear. The alien ships were visible in the sky now like moving stars. Children pointed at them from playgrounds. Adults stood in streets looking up. The world held its breath. But in secret places around the world, other people were getting ready. In deep ocean bases, mountain bunkers, and hidden facilities, humans who had been waiting for this day began their work. They had been preparing for 50 years, ever since the first radio signals from space had been detected. The alien plasma cannons fired. Bright beams of energy shot through space toward Luna Station. Everyone on the station braced for impact. The beams hit the station's shields and did nothing. "What?" Vextar stared at his screens. "How are they blocking our weapons?" His science officer, a creature with 6 arms and compound eyes, checked the readings. "Sir, their shields are not just blocking our energy. They are absorbing it." Luna Station's shields glowed brighter after each hit. The energy from the alien weapons was being stored and converted into power for the human base. Do-hyun watched the power levels climb on his screens. "Thank you for the energy boost," he said into his communication system, broadcasting directly to the alien fleet. "Earth appreciates your generous donation." Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. These primitive creatures were mocking him. His fleet was supposed to be feared across the galaxy. How were these humans not afraid? "Fire again," he ordered. "Full power." The alien ships unleashed everything they had. Plasma beams, particle cannons, and energy weapons that could destroy cities. All of it struck Luna Station's shields. All of it was absorbed and stored. On Earth, something was happening in the deep ocean. Sensors that had been disguised as scientific equipment were coming online. In the deepest parts of the Pacific Ocean, massive shapes began to move. Engineer Sung-ho stood in a control room 5 miles under the sea. He had worked on this project for 20 years, ever since he graduated from engineering school. Today, all that work would finally matter. "Daejeon Rising initiation sequence beginning," he said into his headset. Around him, hundreds of people worked at control stations. They had practiced this moment thousands of times. Far above them, on the surface of the ocean, something impossible began to happen. The water started to move upward as if a mountain was rising from the seafloor, but it was not a mountain. The Daejeon Rising broke the surface of the Pacific Ocean like a whale coming up for air. But this whale was 12 kilometers long and covered in armor that looked like scales. Water poured off its massive hull as it rose higher and higher into the sky. On the alien ships, every alarm started ringing at once. "Sir, we are detecting a massive energy signature from the planet's surface," reported the science officer. His voice was shaking. It is. It is larger than our entire fleet. Vextar stared at his screens. The readings had to be wrong. Nothing that big could be a spaceship. Nothing that primitive species could build. But as the Daejeon Rising continued to rise from the ocean, even Vextar could see it with his own eyes. It was massive, dark, and covered with weapons that looked like nothing in their databases. Impossible, he whispered. Du Hyun opened a communication channel to all the alien ships. His voice was calm and polite, like he was inviting them for dinner. Hello, visitors from space. Welcome to Earth. I am Admiral Do Hyun of the Earth Defense Force. I hope you enjoyed your demonstration of our defensive capabilities. Now perhaps we should discuss the terms of your surrender. In the depths of the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans, 6 more mountains began to rise. Captain Min Jun had been waiting for this day his entire life. He stood on the bridge of the Daejeon Rising, looking at screens that showed him the alien fleet above. The massive ship around him hummed with power as it rose through the atmosphere. All systems online, Captain, reported Engineer Boram from her station. She had helped design the ship's engines. They were unlike anything the aliens had in their databases. We are ready for space combat, Min Jun nodded. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion and the corporate wars. But this was different. This time he was fighting for every human who had ever lived. Navigation Officer Hye Jin, set course for the alien fleet, he ordered. Show them what Earth really looks like when it stops hiding. Down in the ocean depths, Engineer Seung Ho watched as 6 more Behemoth-class ships began their rise to the surface. The Sol Ascendant emerged from the Atlantic Ocean near Iceland. The Inchin's wrath broke through the waters off the coast of Japan. One by one, the sleeping giants of Earth's navy came alive. Each ship was 12 kilometers of carefully designed war machine. They looked like sea creatures from Earth's ancient past, but they were covered in armor that could survive the heat of a star. Every curve and angle had been tested in Earth's secret shipyards. Commander Vextar watched his screens in growing horror. 7 massive ships were now rising from Earth's oceans. Each one was bigger than his flagship. His science officer was reporting energy readings that broke their measurement systems. How many ships do they have? He asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Unknown, sir, the science officer replied. Our scans of their planet showed no ship construction facilities. These vessels were completely hidden from our sensors. Vextar had been conquering primitive worlds for 300 years. He had seen species try to hide their weapons before. Usually they had a few small ships hidden in asteroid belts or behind moons. But 7 massive warships hidden in a planet's oceans? That was impossible. The Daejeon Rising reached space and took position between Earth and the alien fleet. Up close, the aliens could see that the human ship was not just big. It was covered with weapon systems they did not recognize. Strange energy patterns flowed across its hull like living light. Alien fleet, this is Captain Min Jun of the Daejeon Rising, came the transmission. The alien translators worked quickly to convert the humans' words. You have attacked a peaceful space station and threatened our planet. Please explain your intentions. Vextar was confused. These humans were being polite even though they clearly had the bigger ships. In his experience, primitive species either begged for mercy or attacked wildly when they were outmatched. But these humans were talking to him like equals. I am Commander Vextar of the Galactic Coalition, he transmitted back. Your species must surrender to Coalition authority. This is standard procedure for all newly discovered civilizations. I see. Min Jun's voice came back. And if we refuse? Then you will be pacified by military force. There was silence for a moment. Then the human captain spoke again, and there was something in his voice that made Vextar's crystal skin feel cold. Commander Vextar, has anyone ever told you about Earth's history? Before Vexistar could answer, information began flooding his ship's computers. The humans were transmitting data directly into their systems. But this was not technical information or surrender documents. This was something much worse. Images filled the alien screens. Humans fighting humans in massive wars, cities burning, weapons that could destroy entire continents, millions of soldiers dying in battles across hundreds of different conflicts. The aliens watched in growing horror as they saw a species that had spent thousands of years learning how to kill efficiently. Your species fights itself? Vextar asked, unable to hide the shock in his voice. We used to, Min Jun replied calmly. We got very good at it. Then we learned to work together. Now we use all that experience to protect our home. The Sol Ascendant took position on the right side of the alien fleet. The Inchin's Wrath moved to the left. One by one, the 7 Behemoth-class ships surrounded the Coalition forces. The aliens found themselves trapped in the middle of a formation they had never seen before. "Sir," the science officer reported to Vextar, "their ships are not following any known military formation. They are positioned to attack us from 7 different directions at once." "That is impossible," Vextar said. "No species coordinates that many large ships in real combat. The communication delays alone would make it useless." But as he watched, the human ships began to move in perfect coordination. They did not move like separate vessels under central command. They moved like parts of a single massive organism, each ship knowing exactly what the others would do. Communications Officer Yunbi aboard the Sol Ascendant was monitoring alien transmissions. She listened as panic spread through the Coalition fleet. Their computers were trying to analyze human tactics but kept reporting errors. Nothing in their databases matched what they were seeing. "Captain," she reported to her commanding officer, "the aliens are trying to understand our formation. Their tactical computers cannot process our coordination patterns." Captain Wu Jin of the Sol Ascendant smiled. "Of course they cannot. They have never fought a species that learned war by fighting itself for 10,000 years." On the Busan Eternal, Strategic Operations Commander Jin Ae coordinated the entire fleet. Her screens showed not one battle, but 7 different tactical situations happening at the same time. Each human ship was preparing for a different type of combat, but all working toward the same goal. "All ships, prepare for demonstration phase," she announced. "Show our visitors what human engineering looks like." The 7 behemoth ships began to change. Armor plates shifted. Weapon systems that had been hidden inside their hulls extended into firing position. Energy patterns that had been flowing gently across their surfaces suddenly blazed with power. But the most frightening change was not visible to alien sensors. Inside each ship, 50,000 humans were preparing for battle. These were not just soldiers. They were engineers, scientists, doctors, and teachers who had trained for this moment. Every human on every ship knew that if they failed, Earth would fall. Commander Vextar watched the human ships transform and realized he had made a terrible mistake. These were not primitive creatures who had accidentally built big ships. These were apex predators who had been planning for this encounter for decades. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from Coalition High Command." "Put it through," Vextar ordered, hoping for reinforcements. The message was short and terrifying. "Commander Vextar, abort mission immediately. Return to Coalition space. Do not engage the human fleet, but sir, we have superior numbers," Vextar protested. "You have 7 primitive ships against our 3 advanced vessels." The reply came from the Coalition's best strategic computers. "You have 7 advanced warships designed by a species that perfected warfare through 10,000 years of constant conflict. Retreat immediately." As if they had heard the transmission, all 7 human ships suddenly came to a full stop. They hung in space around the alien fleet like predators surrounding prey. Minjun's voice came across the communications again, still polite, still calm. "Commander Vextar, you now have 2 choices. You can leave our solar system peacefully, or you can learn why Earth remained unconquered for 4 billion years. What is your decision?" Commander Vexitar stared at the 7 massive human ships surrounding his fleet. His pride would not let him retreat without a fight. He had conquered 47 worlds for the Coalition. He would not be defeated by primitive creatures from a backwater planet. "All ships attack formation," he ordered. "Target the largest human vessel. We will destroy their flagship and watch the others surrender." The Coalition ships moved into their standard battle formation. They had used this same pattern to defeat hundreds of enemy fleets. 3 ships working together, sharing shield power and coordinating their weapons. It had never failed before. But as they moved, something unexpected happened. Small human ships began appearing around them. Not big warships like the behemoths, but tiny fighters that moved faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Lieutenant Sung-min sat in the cockpit of his interceptor fighter. He had trained for this moment in simulators, but the real thing was different. The alien ships were much bigger than he had expected. But size did not matter if you could not hit your target. "All fighters, this is Sung-min," he transmitted to his squadron. "Remember your training. These aliens think we are primitive. Let us show them what primitive looks like when it evolves. His fighter was small compared to the alien ships, but it was built using technology the Coalition had never seen. The engines used quantum mechanics to move through space in ways that broke the usual rules. The weapons were powered by the same energy systems that had absorbed the alien attack on Luna Station. The alien fighters launched to meet them. These were piloted by the insectoid Carthari, a race that had been bred for war. They flew in perfect formation like a swarm of angry bees. There were hundreds of them and only 50 human fighters, but the humans did not fight like a swarm. Each pilot flew differently, using tactics learned from centuries of aerial combat on Earth. Some attacked head-on like ancient knights. Others used stealth and surprise like ninjas. Still others flew in patterns that seemed random, but were actually based on complex mathematics. Sungmin dove toward a group of alien fighters, his weapons charging. The aliens expected him to fire from long range, the way most space fighters did. Instead, he waited until he was almost close enough to touch them. Then he fired. His quantum weapons tore through alien shields like paper. 3 enemy fighters exploded in balls of fire. The remaining aliens scattered, confused by tactics they had never seen before. How are they penetrating our shields? One of the alien pilots screamed over the radio. Their weapons should not be able to do that. But the human weapons were not just more powerful. They were smarter. Each shot learned from the last one, adapting to whatever defenses the aliens used. Within minutes, the alien fighter squadrons were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. On the Daejeon Rising, Captain Min Jun watched the fighter battle with satisfaction. But the real fight was just beginning. The 3 alien capital ships were powering up their main weapons, preparing to destroy his ship. All behemoths. Demonstrate Protocol 7, he ordered. What happened next would be talked about in alien military academies for the next 1,000 years. The 7 human ships did not just fight back against the alien attack. They welcomed it. As plasma cannons and particle beams struck their hulls, the behemoth ships began to glow brighter. Every weapon that hit them made them stronger. Chief Engineer Boram monitored the energy conversion systems. "Captain, we are absorbing their entire attack," she reported. "Power levels are at 200% and climbing." "Excellent," Min Jun replied. "Return their gift with interest." The Daejeon Rising fired back, but not with normal space weapons. The energy it had absorbed from the alien attack was converted and focused into beams that cut through space like swords of light. When they hit the Coalition flagship, the alien shields failed instantly. Commander Vextar felt his ship shake as human weapons tore into its hull. "Impossible," he shouted. "Our shields are the best in the galaxy." His science officer was staring at his instruments in shock. "Sir, they are not just firing energy weapons at us. They are firing our own weapons back at us, but the energy has been enhanced somehow." The truth was even worse than the alien officer knew. The humans had not just absorbed the Coalition's attack. They had studied it, analyzed it, and improved it in the few seconds between being hit and firing back. On the Sol Ascendant, Captain Wu Jin was fighting his own battle with psychological weapons. His ship was broadcasting human history directly into the alien fleet's communication systems. But not just any history. He was showing them the worst battles humans had ever fought. The alien crews watched in horror as they saw images of the Battle of Stalingrad, where humans fought house by house for months. They saw the trenches of World War I, where soldiers lived in mud and death for years. They saw the atomic bombs of World War II, where humans used weapons that could burn cities in seconds. "They fight like demons," whispered one of the alien gunners. "How did they survive their own wars?" "Because they are demons," another replied. "Look at their weapons. They build things designed to kill other humans. What will they do to us?" Fleet engineer Kyung-soo was working on something that would change space warfare forever. His team was taking pieces of destroyed alien fighters and rebuilding them with human technology. Within hours of first contact, human ships were firing improved versions of Coalition weapons. "How are they doing that?" Vextar demanded as his own weapons began hitting his ships. "How are they using our technology?" The answer was simple but terrifying. Humans were adaptation specialists. They had spent their entire evolutionary history taking things from their environment and making them better. Now they were doing the same thing with alien technology. The battle was becoming a massacre, but not in the way the Coalition had expected. Their superior numbers meant nothing when the humans turned every attack into more power for themselves. Their advanced technology meant nothing when the humans improved it and used it against them. Communications Officer Yunbi intercepted a transmission from the Coalition flagship to their homeworlds. She listened to Commander Vextar's panicked report and smiled grimly. "The humans are not primitive," Vextar was saying. "They are apex predators disguised as prey. They have been preparing for this encounter for decades. Request immediate reinforcement from all Coalition fleets." The reply came back quickly. "Negative. All fleets are to avoid human space until further assessment. You are ordered to retreat immediately." But it was too late for retreat. The 7 behemoth ships had surrounded the Coalition fleet completely. Every direction the aliens could run was blocked by massive human warships. "Commander Vexitar," came Minjun's voice over the communication system, "your fleet is surrounded and outgunned. Your reinforcements have been ordered not to help you. You have one chance to surrender with honor." Vextar looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was injured. His shields were failing. His weapons were being used against him by creatures he had thought were primitive animals. What are your surrender terms?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Simple," Minjun replied. "You will return to your Coalition leaders. You will tell them that Earth is not available for conquest. You will warn them that humans prefer peace, but we are very, very good at war. And if the Coalition decides to send a larger fleet..." Minjun's laugh was not cruel, but it was confident. "Commander, you have seen 7 of our ships. Earth has been building these vessels for 50 years. How many do you think we have?" The question hung in space like a sword over the alien commander's head. If these 7 ships were just the beginning, if Earth had been preparing for this war for decades, then the Coalition faced something they had never encountered before. A planet full of apex predators who had finally stopped pretending to be harmless. Commander Vextar had no choice left. His fleet was trapped, his shields were down, and his weapons were being used against him. But his pride as a Coalition officer would not let him surrender without one last attempt at victory. "Signal the domination of stars," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell Captain Mortek to engage their largest vessel directly. If we can destroy their command ship, maybe the others will lose coordination." The domination of stars was the Coalition's most advanced warship. It carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been penetrated. Captain Mortek was their finest military commander, a veteran of 1,000 battles across the galaxy. The massive alien ship moved toward the Inchon's Wrath, which was positioned at the edge of the human formation. Mortek had chosen this target because it seemed to be operating independently from the other human ships. He was wrong. Captain Wu Jin stood on the bridge of the Inchon's Wrath, watching the alien warship approach. His ship was 12 kilometers of carefully designed nightmare, built by humans who understood that sometimes the best weapon was fear itself. Communications Officer Yunbi, "Open a channel to the approaching vessel," he ordered. "Let us have a conversation with their captain." "Channel open?" "Sir." "Captain Mortek," Wu Jin said in perfect Coalition standard language. "I am Captain Wu Jin of the human vessel Inchon's Wrath. Before we begin our battle, would you like to know something about my ship's name?" Mortek was surprised. Most primitive species could barely speak their own language, much less learn Coalition standard. "Explain," he replied. "Inchon was a city on our planet where humans fought one of our greatest battles," Wu Jin continued. "In that battle, humans who were outnumbered 10-1 defeated an enemy that everyone thought was unbeatable. The word wrath means the anger that comes when someone threatens your family." As he spoke, the Inchon's Wrath began to change. Armor plates shifted to reveal weapons that did not appear in any Coalition database. Energy patterns flowed across its hull like veins of lightning. But the most frightening change was the sound it began to make. Human ships were not supposed to make sounds in space, but the Inchon's Wrath was broadcasting audio directly into the alien ship's hull, making it vibrate with a deep, rumbling noise that sounded like a predator's growl. "What is that sound?" Mortek asked his crew. His science officer checked the readings. "Sir, they are using our own hull as a speaker. The sound is the recorded roar of something they call a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was the apex predator on their planet 65 million years ago." "Impossible. No creature could make a sound that loud." "Sir, according to their transmission, it could, and they are telling us that humans are its evolutionary descendants." The 2 ships closed to combat range. Mortek fired first, unleashing every weapon his ship had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and gravity weapons. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Inchon's Wrath absorbed it all, Status report. Mortek shouted as his weapons had no effect. Sir, their ship is not just absorbing our energy. It is converting it to power their own systems. Every shot we fire makes them stronger. But Captain Wu Jin was not finished with his demonstration. As his ship's power levels climbed from absorbing the alien attack, he activated the Inchun's Wrath's most terrifying weapon system. The human ship began to broadcast directly into the minds of the alien crew. This was not communication. This was psychological warfare perfected by a species that had spent thousands of years learning how to break the will of their enemies. The aliens found themselves experiencing human memories of war. They felt what it was like to be a soldier in the trenches of World War I, listening to artillery shells screaming overhead for months. They experienced the terror of being in a city during an air raid, hiding in basements while bombs fell from the sky. They lived through the horror of nuclear warfare, watching their civilization burn in atomic fire. But worst of all, they experienced the human response to these horrors. They felt how humans had not just survived these terrible wars but had learned from them, how each conflict had made humanity stronger, more adaptable, more determined to protect their home. "Make it stop," screamed Mortek's navigator, holding his head in his hands. "How can any species survive such violence?" "Because we are very good at it," came Wu Jin's voice through their communication system. "And because we never forget that the alternative to winning is watching our families die." The psychological attack was breaking the alien crew's will to fight, but Wu Jin was not finished. The Inchun's Wrath fired back at the domination of stars, but these were not normal space weapons. The human ship fired modified versions of the Coalition's own weapons, improved by human engineering and powered by energy absorbed from the alien attack. But the truly devastating part was that each shot carried information. Every weapon that hit the alien ship downloaded human tactical data into their computers. The aliens watched in growing horror as their own systems began to show them how humans would attack their ship, how they would board it, and how they would capture the crew alive. "They are not trying to destroy us," Mortek realized in terror. "They are planning to capture us." "Sir, why would they want prisoners?" "To learn from us, to study our technology, to find out about the rest of the Coalition." Mortek's voice was shaking. "They are going to turn us into weapons against our own people." On the Busan Eternal, Strategic Operations Commander Jin A was coordinating the battle across all 7 ships. Her tactical displays showed something that would have impressed even human military historians. A perfect demonstration of combined arms warfare adapted for space combat. Each behemoth was fighting a different type of battle, but all supporting the others. The Daejeon Rising was demonstrating raw firepower. The Sol Ascendant was using electronic warfare to confuse alien sensors. The Inchun's Wrath was breaking enemy morale with psychological weapons. The other 4 ships were showing off different aspects of human military doctrine. The Busan Eternal itself was coordinating everything like the brain of a massive organism. The Gwangju Defiant was adapting alien technology in real time. The Ulsan Thunder was using stealth systems that made it appear and disappear like a ghost. The Jeju Storm was demonstrating mobility, dancing around alien ships like a fighter pilot in a massive vessel. "All ships, Phase 2, Jin'e announced. "Show them what coordination really looks like." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The 7 human ships began to move as one entity, each vessel perfectly positioned to support the others. When one ship was attacked, the others would immediately respond. When one needed power, the others would share their energy. But the most incredible thing was how they shared information. The human ships were not just coordinating their attacks. They were learning from each battle and instantly sharing that knowledge with the other vessels. Every tactic the aliens used against one ship immediately became useless against all the others. "Commander." Vextar watched his fleet being systematically dismantled by an enemy that got smarter with every passing minute. His ships were being captured one by one, their crews overwhelmed by boarding parties of humans who fought like demons and thought like scientists. "Send the emergency signal," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell Coalition High Command that we have encountered a species that requires immediate uplift to Class A threat status." "Class A, sir?" "That classification is reserved for species that can threaten the entire Coalition." Vextar looked at his screens, watching 7 human ships destroy his fleet with weapons powered by his own attacks. "Look around you, officer. What else would you call this?" The transmission went out to Coalition space at faster than light speed. For the first time in their history, the Galactic Coalition was declaring an entire species to be too dangerous to conquer. The message was simple, but terrifying. Species designation human, upgraded to apex predator classification. All Coalition fleets are ordered to avoid Sol system until further notice. Repeat, do not engage the humans. They are not what they appear to be. As the last Coalition ship surrendered to human boarding parties, Captain Min-jun opened a final communication to the alien fleet. Commander Vextar, your ships and crews will be returned to Coalition space unharmed, but you will carry a message for us. Tell your leaders that Earth offers peace to all who come in friendship, but warn them that we have been preparing for war for much longer than they think. How long? Vextar asked weakly. Min-jun smiled, but it was not a cruel smile. It was the smile of a human who had just protected his home. Commander, humans have been at war with something for 4 billion years. Predators, diseases, disasters, each other, and now you. We are very experienced at surviving things that want to kill us. 3 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was a different place. News of humanity's victory had spread to every civilized world, carried by Coalition survivors who spoke in whispers about ships that rose from Earth's oceans and weapons that turned attacks into power. Ambassador So Young stood in the Great Hall of Convergence Point, the neutral station where galactic diplomacy happened. She had been a corporate negotiator on Mars before first contact. Now she represented humanity to dozens of alien species who were trying to understand what Earth really was. The station was built inside a massive asteroid, with chambers carved from solid rock and corridors that could accommodate beings of any size. Today, it was crowded with representatives from across the galaxy. They had all come to meet the humans. Ambassador So Young, said the delegate from the Crystalline Confederation, a being that looked like living diamond. Our scientists have analyzed the battle records from the Coalition fleet. Your ships use technology that should not exist. How long have humans been spacefaring? So Young smiled politely. She had been asked this question dozens of times in the past week. We launched our first satellite 70 years ago. We reached our moon 60 years ago. We began serious space exploration 50 years ago. Impossible, said the Tentacled Empire's representative, waving several arms in distress. Our species needed 300 years to develop ships like yours. Perhaps, So Young replied, but you did not spend those 300 years fighting wars with yourselves. Humans are very good at making things that work under pressure. Admiral Do Hyun, now Supreme Fleet Commander of the Earth Defense Force, watched the diplomatic meeting from his command ship. The Daejeon Rising hung in space near Convergence Point, a reminder to everyone that humanity's words were backed by force. Status report on the new construction? He asked his aide, Lieutenant Hae-won. 12 new Behemoth-class ships will be completed within the year, sir, she replied. The Pohang Defender is already undergoing space trials. Earth's shipyards are working at full capacity. Do-hyun nodded. The galaxy now knew that humans had warships, but they still did not know how many. That uncertainty was Earth's greatest diplomatic weapon. Let them wonder if humanity had dozens of behemoth ships or hundreds. Captain Min-jun was exploring the farthest reaches of known space aboard the Daejeon Rising. His mission was officially diplomatic, but everyone understood the real purpose. He was showing the galaxy that human ships could go anywhere and do anything. Captain, reported Navigation Officer Hae-jin, we are approaching the Nexari home system. They are requesting permission to scan our ship. Permission denied, Min-jun replied calmly. Tell them we are here for peaceful trade discussions. Our technology remains classified. The Nexari were the same species as Commander Vextar, the Coalition officer who had first attacked Earth. They were trying to understand how their advanced weapons had been so easily defeated by creatures they had thought were primitive. On the planet below, Nexari scientists worked frantically to analyze the battle data. They had been studying space warfare for thousands of years, but human tactics made no sense to them. How could one species coordinate so many large ships without central control? How could they adapt alien technology so quickly? Their ships fight like a school of fish, reported one scientist, but with the intelligence of individual predators. Each vessel makes its own decisions, but they all work together perfectly. It is impossible, replied the lead researcher. No known species can maintain that level of coordination in battle. Perhaps, said the first scientist quietly. We have been thinking about this wrong. What if they are not 7 ships? What if they are 7 parts of one larger organism? The idea was terrifying. If human ships could truly think and fight as one entity, then the Coalition's entire military doctrine was useless. They had spent thousands of years learning to defeat individual ships and fleets. But how do you fight an enemy that becomes stronger every time you attack it? Back on Earth, engineer Sung Ho was working on humanity's next generation of warships. The new vessels would be even larger than the behemoths, designed for long-range exploration and colonization. But they would also be ready for war if needed. The Sol Ascendant Mark II will be 15 kilometers long, he reported to his team. It will carry not just weapons but entire cities' worth of people. We can establish colonies anywhere in the galaxy. And if those colonies are attacked? Asked his assistant. Then the attackers will learn why we call them colony ships instead of warships, Seung Ho replied with a smile. Every human settlement will be able to defend itself. The plan was ambitious but simple. Humanity would spread across the galaxy, not as conquerors but as neighbors. Human colonies would offer trade, technology, and protection to any species that wanted friendship, but they would also serve as warnings to anyone who thought Earth was still vulnerable. Chief Diplomat Hai Wan was meeting with representatives from 12 different species at once. Her job was to negotiate humanity's first formal treaties with galactic civilizations. The discussions were going well, but everyone was being very careful. The hegemony of hive worlds offers exclusive trade agreements, said their representative. A creature that spoke with the voice of 1 million individuals. In exchange, we request technical specifications for your shield systems. Earth appreciates the offer, Heywan replied diplomatically. But our defensive technology must remain confidential. However, we can offer to protect hive world trade ships from pirates. It was a clever counteroffer. Instead of sharing their technology, humans would use it to help others. This would make Earth valuable as an ally while keeping their secrets safe. Similar negotiations were happening across the galaxy. Species that had never worked together before were now forming alliances, all focused on the same question. How do we deal with humanity? Some wanted to become human allies, hoping to gain protection from their enemies. Others wanted to study human technology, thinking they could duplicate it. A few wanted to find ways to defeat humanity before Earth became too powerful, but all of them had learned the same lesson from the Battle of Sol. Humans were not what they appeared to be. Commander Vextar, now retired in disgrace from Coalition service, spent his days writing reports that no one wanted to read. His analysis of human capabilities had been classified at the highest levels, but he continued working anyway. The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered, he wrote. They do not seek to dominate or destroy their enemies. Instead, they seek to survive and protect their own. This makes them more dangerous than any conqueror, because they will never stop adapting. His final report was a warning that Coalition leaders did not want to hear. We assumed that humans were primitive because they had not developed faster-than-light travel. We were wrong. They had developed something much more valuable, the ability to turn any challenge into an opportunity to become stronger. 1 year after first contact, Earth was no longer alone in the universe. Human colonies were being established on a dozen worlds. Human ships patrolled trade routes protecting alien merchants from pirates. Human technology was slowly being shared with trusted allies. But the most important change was not on Earth or its colonies. It was in the minds of every intelligent species in the galaxy. They had all learned that appearances could be deceiving, that primitive-looking civilizations might be hiding incredible power, and that some species were best approached with respect rather than arrogance. Admiral Do Hyun stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, looking out at Earth below. The planet looked peaceful from space with white clouds and blue oceans. It looked like a garden world, beautiful and harmless. He smiled as he remembered Commander Vextar's first transmission. Primitive species of Sol 3, you will surrender. Sir? Asked his aide, noticing his expression. I was just thinking, Do Hyun replied, about how dangerous it can be to judge a book by its cover. Far below them, in the depths of Earth's oceans, the next generation of human warships was already under construction. Humanity had revealed some of their strength to the galaxy, but they had kept their greatest secrets hidden. After all, the most important lesson humans had learned from their long history was simple. Always be prepared for the next fight. Because there is always a next fight, The galaxy was now a safer place for peaceful species, a more dangerous place for aggressive ones, and a much more interesting place for everyone. And Earth, the small blue planet that had once seemed so primitive, had become the most respected and feared world in known space. Humanity had finally taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as the galaxy's apex predators. And everyone, from the smallest trade ship to the largest battle fleet, had learned to treat them with the respect that apex predators deserved.